All right, I might be a little bit late to the game in this because this video is from 2020, but I just encountered a video from the very popular drummer Shawn Crowder where he is speaking with a producer by the name of Phonon about his crazy time signatures. And I just wanted to do a response video because I guess it's getting to that point where I do response videos now. So we're going to be talking about what is kind of a ridiculous time signature that at the end of the day, I do want to support, people exploring, but I think that, some of this was in a gotcha, like, ooh, like, look at what I'm doing type of way that is at the end of the day kind of inelegant and not helpful other than trying to seem like he's doing something really crazy. So, that being said, this guy's young, he's doing something creative. I applaud him for that. But I think that the way that they're approaching this is kind of bogus. So I just wanted to speak about this time signature or this polyrhythm even. So let's get into it. Basically, in this video, they're talking about some song of his and how it has the polyrhythm 5.2 over 4. Okay, so to start with, this is not using all natural numbers. It's using a decimal, which isn't even a crazy decimal. It can be reduced very easily to natural numbers. So if we say 5.2, let's just start with 5.2, forget the 4 for now. 5.2, so that's basically saying 5 beats and then 1/5 of a beat, 0.2 of a beat. So that's basically like 5 quarter notes and then 1/16 quintuplet, like one of the 5 quintuplets that would fill up a quarter note. Okay, so this isn't crazy, but to start with, it would be more elegant to call it 5 and 1/5, because then you at least see, okay, I need 1/5 of a quintuplet. But to say 5.2, it's not that helpful unless you're just having a computer render everything, which in this case he is. And cool, I do that too. But let's make some plausible time signatures here. So to start, 5.2 should be 5 and 1/5. Okay. So now what about 5 and 1/5? That's still a little bit complicated because it's quite difficult to just pull one quintuplet out of 5 quintuplets and then cycle back. And so it would make more sense, honestly, to call this 26/5, because 5 and 1/5, if we treat the 5 then as basically 5 groups of quintuplets, we get 25 plus that 1/5. So it would reduce to 26 over 5. Okay, and now forget the bottom part of that. We just have a cycle of 26 units. Okay, so if you do 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 1, then that's basically doing the 5.2 meter that is part of this polyrhythm he's talking about. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 1. And then it repeats there when it gets back to that 1. So I think that this is kind of just trying to do a gotcha, and I don't know, like, I don't want to be the old guy who's sitting over here, being a curmudgeon saying, but it's all about the music. But I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it should all be about the music, right? So okay, now we have 26. Okay, that's our new meter, which is going to much more effectively communicate to any performer that it's going to be this certain rhythm than 5.2. Now, to say 5.2 over 4, it's not 5.24. That's not a time signature. It's a polyrhythm, 5.2 against 4. Okay, so if we're going to do this, then we have to take that 26 and multiply it by 4. So that gives us 104. 104 units of rhythmic impulses. Okay, so what's interesting about 104? It's 13. It's 13 times 8. So essentially, this is just a 13 against 8 polyrhythm that is grouped into a certain way, a certain grouping that makes it seem kind of fractional in that sense. And again, this is all cool stuff. I'm just saying that this is not a helpful way to communicate it. It's a good way to say, I've discovered new territory of rhythm, and I'm doing something that nobody can play. And I'm like, one of the, biggest proponents of Conla non-Caro, but at the same time, it's like, you have to realize that you're only going to have a player piano or Ableton Live render your stuff. And so at that point, why do you even need to describe it in terms of a polyrhythm when it's just instantiated already? You don't need to describe it unless you're trying to have somebody else know what's going on. Okay, and so again, I just want to say, I appreciate the sort of creative attitude and the sort of rhythmic adventurousness of phonon, and the willingness to sort of give a thoughtful response to it that Shawn Crowder did in his video. But this crowd, like Shawn Crowder's a big music YouTuber. He plays with Adam Neely, who's like a humongous music YouTuber. And Adam Neely recently did a video where he was saying, in a somewhat clickbaity way, that tempos with 2 decimal points of specificity are trash. And so I was kind of offended by that, almost, because I don't think that's trash, but I do think that this is trash, to be as pedantic as he was in that. But so let's talk about this polyrhythm and how it would play out in a more elegant way. So as I said, it would be 104 rhythmic units, basically. So that's 13 against 8. That's a much nicer way to create that ratio, is 8 groups of 13, 13 groups of 8. And then you group it basically on the bottom to get the 4, because it's 5.2 in the top and 4 in the bottom. So you divide 104 into 26, 26, 26, 26. And you could even reduce that to 13, 13, 13, 13. Now for the 5.2 on top, basically that's going to be, with 104, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. That was 5, right? Plus 4. Or 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 2. Cool? And so to have 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 2, I think that was 5 tens, and then 13, 13, 13, 13 on the bottom, that's actually what you're doing. Now, let's say that we have a sort of threshold of accuracy that's already pretty unreasonable, but still manageable. So like, let's say 100 milliseconds. That's like a 16th note at 150 beats per minute. Okay. If we do that, this whole cycle will take 10.4 seconds to resolve. Okay. Well, as far as I know, I couldn't finish the video because I was just already getting all curmudgeonly about it. So, as far as I know, he was using a 140 beats per minute tempo. Okay. And so basically that means for 4 pulses of 140 beats per minute to resolve, that's going to come to 1.7 seconds, a little bit more. Like, we could even round up to 1.8, but it's about 1.7 seconds. So to fit that whole polyrhythm in there and have it have any sort of like, common unit that you can refer to, that means that common unit would be about 17 milliseconds, because that's 1.7 seconds divided by 104 rhythmic units. Now, none of this matters because it's all being done in Ableton. And again, that's totally fine. I support non-Caro. I've done this type of stuff myself. But if you're going to go as far as to describe it in terms of conventional, music theoretic language, like, to say like time signatures and to say standard tempos and all that, then this seems mostly just like it's a little bit self-indulgent. And so, if we wanted to look at that 104 beats of rhythmic impulses, I think that's a much clearer way to do it. And so if you want to write music with 17 milliseconds as your threshold in mind, I think that's kind of crazy. But, on the same token, if Adam Neely is going to say that, something like 120.17 beats per minute is trash, I'm going to say that this is trash. This is just my hot take on Phonon and Shawn Crowder, and their sort of wild time signatures video. I think that Shawn in the video, from what I saw, had some good analysis of it. But I as somebody who is a big, sort of rhythmic nutcase like that, I just like, it doesn't make sense to me, and I think it's self-indulgent, and maybe I begrudge somebody getting attention for, doing something that's wild sounding and like described in a in a way that sounds complicated. But like, if you're going to do that and you're going to go as far as to describe how you rendered that and how it's instantiated, then at least make it, parsimonious and clear so that a performer could play it, because otherwise there's no point in putting it in performer's terms rather than just computer code, for instance. Like, you can do all sorts of shit in Maximus P, and nobody's intrigued by that time signature. Nobody's trying to figure out by ear the time signatures that Conlon Nonkara used, because it's specifically so mechanical that to put it in human terms seems like it's misguided. So anyway, this is just my ramble and sort of hot take on this, but thanks for watching. See you in the next video.